in the chamber this week. Basically, a whole freaking grab bag episode. We talk about Western style animation quite a lot. Ever wonder about the history of animation? We're here for you! Come with us as we talk about the highs, lows, and in-betweens of animation. Marvel as we discuss about some of the strangest shows we have ever run across. Get frustrated as we go on many tangents. Plus, there's basically the equivalent of 2 Joes on the show, so wackiness is going to be quite high. Let us entertain you. All this and more on Fandom Roulette. Oh man, hey everyone. Welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And this is Joel.
What?
It's like Joe again, but with an L.
Where's Cody?
What? I don't know.
I'm looking around the studio. I'm in a completely different spot than I usually am in.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I know we pitched this already last week to you, but welcome to a very special Fandom Roulette episode. Cody is getting married.
Yay.
No, that's graduation music.
Yeah, he's graduating from
Oh wait, no, that's Star Wars music. What's the music?
No, that's still the graduation music.
Graduation.
Again.
Oh yeah. So yeah, in the studio with me this week is a very special guest. This person is like basically a brother to me. We are like the Abbotts to one another's Costellos.
Yeah, the Statler to one another's Waldorf.
The Raggetide to one another's Pintel.
Yeah.
Those are the guys from the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay, I assume so.
Yeah. And the other 2 guys...
Gilbert to my Sullivan, but less racist?
Yeah, obviously that's racist. Yeah, this is Joel.
Hello.
Joel, why don't you give us a teeny tiny bit of your nerd bona fides?
Hi, wow, first of all, that's disgusting. Second of all, my name is Joel.
What's disgusting?
I didn't think this was that kind of podcast. Just guys talk about one another's bona fides, like, immediately. This girl is like penis. Okay, yeah.
I see what you did there. It was funny. I was laughing.
Yeah, okay.
You can tell by the way I was laughing.
Don't fucking patronize me. Yeah, so, my name is Joel, and I like computers.
Okay. What, do you like The Lord of the Rings?
I mean, it's alright.
That's, okay, another reason I was setting up a softball. Because that's how we met and became friends.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You were reading the Lord of the Rings.
I was.
But yeah, hey Joel, what nerdy stuff have you been up to this week?
Let's see. I've been playing Swords of Ditto on Steam, which is good.
Video game boy in the house.
Yeah, it was a video game.
Oh man.
Let's see. Watching some Dragon Ball Super, so that was pretty fun.
Was it super?
Yeah, I would say so. It was superior. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
that one.
And the nerdy stuff that I've been up to.
Yeah.
This week, I'm back in the saddle with Star Trek. I'm watching Deep Space Nine again. I taken a little break because I realized that I had not watched anything outside of Star Trek for a year or so. So I was like, gotta take a break on that one.
You said it, Motorcycle Man.
Right.
Okay.
Oh man, Cody's gonna be so happy with this.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. As we mentioned, should I give a little backstory about our
the Kartoon Kouncil?
The Kartoon Kouncil.
Yeah, why not?
So,
I think that would segue really nicely.
Yeah. Joel and I have been friends since about high school, and we had become closer and closer as the years went on. And then in the year of our Lord, I believe 2012, maybe early 2013.
Yeah.
I think it was winter times.
Yeah, that's right.
Joel and I were at a house that serves the devil's teardrops.
It was.
That's right. We were at a bar. And we were walking a friend home. As we were walking home, Joel was trying to pitch me to watch a cartoon called... Should I say it?
Yeah. It was called My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic.
Friendship is Magic, yes.
Right.
And then I was telling Joel about a cartoon show I quite liked called Phineas and Ferb. And so we were both telling one another about why we liked the show and episodes that we liked about the show. And in both cases, they were shows that had I would say like relatively low levels of continuity.
Uh-huh.
So it was like
you can just kind of jump in.
Yeah, really at any point. And so we dropped my friend off at home. We went back to my domicile, and we showed each other like I think 2 episodes apiece.
Something like that.
Of our cartoon shows that we enjoyed. And then at that point, we decided that we were going to start a club where we basically just watched lots and lots of cartoons, and we called ourselves the Kartoon Kouncil, but with K's instead of C's because we thought it was funny.
Yeah, obviously it's wacky.
It's wacky, yeah, wacky.
You know.
Wop, 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 wop. Yeah, so, God, we've watched a lot of animation at this point.
We sure have, yeah. So it's like, it's good because it's sort of like an exchange program where one of us can, like, tell the other one about this cool cartoon that we heard about, and then we can watch it, and we do that.
Sure, yeah.
Together.
And so it's like, if we run across something, I ran across, like, a show on a flight once that I wanted to tell you about, and, you will read about things and bring them back to me. And so, I thought it was just kind of perfect if our special episodes were about animation. And then I realized animation, damn, that's a lot of it.
It is.
In the world.
There's many.
And so we decided that we were going to split it into 2 weeks because that's the amount of time that we had to cover. So this week is going to be about Western style and more specifically like American animation, just because that's what we're most familiar with, I would argue.
Yeah.
And then next week, we're going to be going to Glorious Japan.
Oh, yes.
And we're going to be talking about
something the kids like to call Japanimation. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Japanimation. With the
Digimans.
With the Digimans. And the Pokemans.
Yeah.
And that hamster show.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh, it's gonna be. Sorry, I got excited.
Oof, I know you heard Japanimation, Japanime.
It just really lights my type teriyaki.
Yep.
Oh, God. On fire. Okay.
So, anyways, I'm going to start off with the history of animation, and I was like,
nice.
Nope.
What the? Oh wow.
There's a lot of it.
Holy moly!
But okay,
I can't even pronounce most of those words.
Sure, yeah. So we're looking here at a very reliable source that is talking to us a little bit about the history of animation. So shall we talk about this? Briefly?
Yeah, that looks pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, like visual representations of stories is one of our oldest forms of communication, going back as far as those caves in France. That's names I'm forgetting.
Oh yeah, the Werner Herzog caves.
Yeah, the Werner Herzog caves. I think that's actually what they rebranded them.
Yeah,
oddly enough,
smart move.
And so basically, as we start observing art and things like that, as we're moving along, we're seeing that they're trying to convey stories. So we have examples of chamber murals that like are representative of like a wrestling match, and that's like if you look from like left to right, like you can see the illusion of movement. Obviously, they didn't have the technology for that yet.
Yeah, but the sequential images are there.
Yeah, sequential images, things like that. And then this is something we'll probably go into a little bit in more detail next week. But some early forms of animation were shadow plays, which I believe were popular in Japan.
Yeah.
Which were taking like these paper cutout figures and then backlighting them and having them play out little stories. And then we're going to fast forward a little bit more to 1659, where there was this thing called the Magic Lantern, which I've heard about, and I don't actually quite know.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know how
realize that was 1659. That's way older than I thought.
Yeah. Do you know anything about this thing, Joel?
Well, it was this lantern, and...
Was it magic?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, wasn't it just, like, basically a light with, like, a little lens, and you, like, spin it around, and it plays, like, an animation?
Oh, it was like an
by
early
projecting
version.
It
was like an early version of that.
Yeah. You know, that thingy that's probably going to come up in a couple paragraphs.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
So then...
That thing's pretty hype.
Flipping ahead even more, we have the thaumatrope, which I think a lot of people have maybe played with before without actually knowing its name. And that's one of those deals where it was a circular disc, and on one hand you had one image, on the other side you had another image, and then you would wrap like a rubber band around it, spin it real quick, And then as it spun, the images would kind of combine and it would look like a bird sitting in a hand or something like that.
Yeah.
The next step forward in 1833 is a thing called the
Fanacistico.
The
Copacabana.
Yep. And so.
Or the Fantascope. That's a way better name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do they go with that one with all the?
I don't know.
They're
probably really horny for Greek or something.
Horny for Greek is actually the name of my insert very funny music genre here.
All right.
And so yeah, it was this thing. I think this is the one that most people are familiar with when we think of early animation, which is it was one of those deals where there would be like about a dozen images on the inside, and you would spin it, and then there would be little slits along the center, and then it would look like a man. So like. Now when we make reproductions of them and recreations of them, it's often a man like riding like a very like tall bicycle.
Classic.
Yep. Oh, classic. Then there is the zoetrope.
Yeah.
So it was another thing that seems very similar to.
There's no picture of it, so
Fantascope.
Kind of screwed on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't give
away.
We're
just gonna skip over the zoetrope.
It
wasn't that important.
Then of course there was the flip book.
Oh yeah.
Created in 1868 by a guy named John Barnes Linnet.
Oh.
He called it the kinograph, and basically I think you guys have all played with flip books before, where series of sequential images, and when you flip them, it makes the man fall down in the corner, and you would do it in the corner of your textbook, and then your teacher would get mad at you because you did it in the corner of your textbook.
Yeah.
But who cares about these other two? We're jumping ahead to a guy named Charles Emile Reynaud, who developed projection praxinoscopes into the thing called the theater optique, with transparent hand-painted colorful pictures in a long perforated strip wound between two spools. So he gave over 12,800 shows to a total of over 500,000 visitors at the Musée Grévin in Paris. You know, I mean, he can't go to Paris without going to the Musée Grévin. Yeah, clearly France isn't either of our strong suits. Man, look at those spikes.
It's a boy,
I love it. Jumping forward, oh my god. Oh, there's so many early things.
So much.
So, okay.
I feel like maybe we could skip ahead a little bit to the classic art form of Flip-O-Rama. It was pioneered by Captain Underpants.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. We're going to jump ahead just a little bit.
Who's a dinosaur?
Yeah, right? Gertie the dinosaur.
Oh, yeah. I remember Gertie the dinosaur.
So, I'm not going to lie to you fine folks at home. I really thought that the history of animation thing was going to be like, there was nothing, and then there was, like, the Fletcher brothers.
Yeah, they're really kind of calling our bluff here, I gotta say.
Yeah, right.
Gertie the dinosaur, and then the sinking of the Lusitania.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically the same thing.
I guess in the context of American animation, American animation. That's what I want to say.
Yeah,
animation was one of those deals where it was like part of movie shows, where you would go and you would pay to see your movie. And then, like, instead of trailers and, like, the movie trivia show, like, you'd get a little show where there'd be, like, a newsreel that is often parodied by, and, like, you know, like, our media today, where it's like, Newsflash! Newsflash, 1939!
I'm Jeff Bennett. This is my radio announcer voice.
Yes. Oh, that scallywag Hitler is going into Sudetenland.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
Turn into Frank Sinatra.
Wow, man. I didn't know Frank Sinatra moonlit as a...
Yeah.
And so,
a lot of people didn't know. He did that to make ends meet.
And then you'd get like maybe like a cereal, but like not like Frosted Flakes or things like that.
Yeah.
It would be like a little part of a story, most famously being Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Oh. But not the good one from the 80s. I mean, they might be good.
It might be good, but they probably aren't as good.
Yeah, they don't have Brian Blessing in them, so that right there is going to be out.
It's a serious disadvantage.
And then, oftentimes, there would be a third thing, which was animation. And so, two of the earliest animators, arguably, that like have created a style of animation that we would recognize are two brothers, correct?
Yeah.
Named Max and Dame Fleischer. And they've recently become more studied and more popularized recently Why would that be, Joel?
Oh, it's because of your favorite video game, the Cuphead.
The Cuphead?
Yeah, the Cuphead is a man who is the head of Cup. And actually it was developed by two also brothers from Toronto, I think, who were huge fans of the Fleischer Brothers Studios. And so it's basically inspired like the animation and graphic style of Cuphead, which is like really distinct even from like Disney stuff from around the time.
Sure.
Because they're also known for like Betty Boop, and they did some Popeye shorts.
Arguably and most famously, the Superman short.
Yeah,
and, you were actually telling me about this a little bit.
Oh, right.
Do you want to like tell that thing that you learned? That
yeah, we were at the bar the other day.
We're gonna sound like alcoholics.
We learned that. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so pretty much all of our animation knowledge is bar related. Yeah, but
God.
It's a secret. But yeah, so the Fleischer Brothers were animating Superman shorts in like the early 40s, I think. And they are the ones who actually suggested that Superman have the power of flight. Because before that, in the traditional opening, he's described as being able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. But he couldn't actually fly. And when they were animating that, they realized it looked really stupid. So they were like, why don't we just have him fly around? And they were like, fuck it, whatever.
I wonder if it looked like the end of the Ang Lee Hulk.
Oh my god, it probably did.
Have you seen Ang Lee's Hulk?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
I remember taking that movie out of the library, and near the end, like there's a scene where Hulk is just jumping through the desert.
Yeah.
And it I swear, I was sitting there and like, when did that movie come out? Like, we were pretty young.
2002.
Okay, so I might have taken it out in like 2003.
Yeah.
So like still in grade school at this point.
Right.
And I remember sitting there and watching it and not knowing much about the filmmaking production, but sitting there thinking like, did they send in like raw animation footage? Because like I don't know if you can even find this, but like if you haven't seen Ang Lee's Hulk, don't.
Yeah, first of all. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it does some interesting things.
I guess
there's a Hulk Poodle.
There's the Hulk Poodle. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Hulk Poodle because I was about to bring up the Hulk Poodle.
Of course you were, because we're the same person.
Also, the villain was secretly like absorbing Man for some reason.
Yeah, and it was also like Nick Nolte,
which
I think, right?
Who was like his abusive dad.
Yeah.
Who I don't know.
I think it had something to do with the fact that in the Incredible Hulk TV show, he was renamed David Banner for some reason.
Oh yeah,
I think that like Nick Nolte actually played David Banner.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying this with any level of authority because I don't want people to get mad at us.
Yeah.
Too late.
People. You guys don't know about the Zoetrope? Some Zoetrope fan is probably like,
oh yeah,
just crushing his neighbors,
crushing his like
collection of novelty Zoetropes.
Yeah, no, we really
it's like Captain Picard.
Oh, it was the last.
Smash the ships.
Oh boy, back on track.
Anyway,
and so yeah, and then of course we get to like what everyone thinks of when they think of early animation, which is kind of one of the world's, I would guess, arguably first studio rivalries.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Between Walt Disney and Warner Brothers. So we don't get sued. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that there was arguably like a rivalry there because the Warner Brothers cartoons were like much more tongue in cheek. They skewed, I would argue, much more adult.
Yeah.
They were like family entertainment for sure, but like they were wittier, they were a little bit funnier, they were definitely edgier.
Yes.
I mean, just go back and watch.
Especially the early ones.
Yes, for sure. And then early Walt Disney stuff was very it was good, right? But you can definitely tell that Disney was always maybe looking a little more kid-oriented than anything else.
Well, it's probably worth saying that neither of them were as like adult as the Fleischer Studios cartoons, which were like super targeted towards adults, which is kind of interesting because like I guess we thought of like cartoons as like starting out as for children.
Yeah,
but, like,
for sure.
Yeah, like there's a short that I remember watching because I remember reading it was really influential called The Old Man of the Mountain, which was a Betty Boop short. There's a short called The Old Man of the Mountain, which starred Cab Calloway,
Okay.
As both the singing voice and also the rotoscoping model for this like old creepy mountain man and the animation's really cool because they rotoscope like his dance moves and stuff.
Okay.
So it actually looks awesome, but also like it's like kind of rapey because there's like all these people walking around with like babies that look like tiny old men of the mountain. The implication is that he like impregnated a bunch of village women, and it's like really uncomfortable. There's like a lot of that in like the really early Fleischer shorts.
Boy.
So
Yikes.
yeah, compared to that, like I feel like Disney and Warner Brothers were both like a little bit more family friendly.
Sure. Disney is credited with some early things, although I guess there's a little bit of debate. A lot of people believe that Disney was the first person to have a synchronized animation and sound.
Huh.
But I guess the Fletchers had done that earlier.
Okay. Screw you, Disney.
Yeah, right. But this all kind of reaches an impasse in 1937.
Oh, yeah.
Where we have the film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which is the first full-length Disney animated film. Now, here's the thing. Apparently there were 7 films that were released earlier that were full-length animation.
Oh.
But,
well,
this was the first one completely made using hand-drawn animation.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So other ones apparently would use cutout, silhouette, or stop motion.
Oh.
And then the other thing about it as well is it is the first movie to, I believe, be produced, animated film, to use Technicolor and to use like 3 animation cell, like what's the word I'm looking for? Framing. So you'd have your background cell.
Oh,
your
okay.
cell, and then
I don't know what that's called, but I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, here it says it right here. I found it.
Oh.
3-strip Technicolor.
Oh.
Wow. Now look at this. This is nuts.
Huh.
We're just looking at our don't worry about it, friends.
Yes, it's all good.
So moving forward, we have like early examples of so eventually, animation moves over to the
Man, this is amazing. We just skipped to a random paragraph of CGI animation, and the examples they give are Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, The Polar Express, Beowulf, and Resident Evil Degeneration. Truly a who's who of films that if you really horrifying and make you want to cry a little bit.
If you look ahead of it, it says, most CGI created films are based on animal characters, monsters, machines, or cartoon-like humans.
Yeah.
Animation studios are now trying to develop ways to create realistic-looking humans, because all of those films fall into a little thing that we like to call in the world the Uncanny Valley.
Boom, boom, boom.
Do you know what the Uncanny Valley is, Joel?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
But we should explain it anyway because it's fun.
Tell me about the Uncanny Valley.
All right. So the Uncanny Valley is this scary place where, because it's based on, I believe, like observers' reactions to portrayals of human beings.
Yes.
So essentially, you start out with like a really crude like stick figure that just resembles a human in the most basic sense. And you gauge how people react to it, like emotionally. And as you get more detailed, they begin to react to it, in a more positive, like, relatable way.
Sure.
So you get to a point where something looks like an actual human on one end, the other end is this really bare-bone interpretation. And as you get more realistic, the response goes upward. But then you get to this point where it's almost realistic, but not quite realistic, and there's this huge dip, which is known as the Uncanny Valley, because something that looks almost human but not quite human is way creepier than something that doesn't look human at all.
Yep. And I think the best example of it, at least in terms of animation, is so you have like a real human being on one hand, right, and then on the other hand you have like a puppet or something like that.
Right.
But in the middle, like, you have, like, Tom Hanks in the Polar Express specifically. It's like, the human mind is very good at rejecting things that look fake to us.
Yes.
And so in animation, anytime, no one's actually been able to crack it yet. I feel like the closest might have been Tintin.
Yeah, well, Tintin was also super stylized.
See, that's the thing.
You know, because I think that's what saved it really,
Yeah.
because there was some stuff that was like a little weirdly detailed, but like the character designs had like those big round heads and like those kind of like not super detailed eyes.
And Captain Haddock had that like just like big bulbous nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drunk guy.
Man, just rather
nice, right off the dome. Yeah, but like the Polar Express, especially, I remember people talking a lot about the eyes. Because I don't think I saw the whole movie, but I remember in the clips of it, like, something about the way they animated the eyes made the eyes look very human, but then, like, the rest of the, like, face looked kind of, like, stiff and, like, CGI, so it kind of looked like a real person in, like, a horrifying, like, computer-generated mask.
That makes sense.
Like, yeah, there was just something really weird about the way the eyes worked.
Fair enough. And then, going back real quick, so we have in the 50s, we have people like Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, yeah.
Who created television shorts and television programs. So, famous ones for that are like Huckleberry Hound, Top Cat.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Top Cat.
Exit, stage right.
That was Snagglepuss.
That was Snagglepuss?
But Top Cat was
Top
a
Cat was
different
the guy
cat.
who had the gang.
Yeah.
He had the top hat.
And he had a top hat because he was the top cat.
hat.
See, now, in hindsight,
and then you had Quick Draw McGraw.
Yep.
With his assistant
No, because Al Capone was his alter ego. Wasn't it?
What was his assistant's name?
Like Baba Booey or something?
Oh
God. Baba Bluey?
Yeah, they're entertaining enough, but I wouldn't go back and watch Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, they were real. Yeah.
And then, arguably, and most famously, in 1960s, Hanna-Barbera premiered a full-length animated television sitcom called The
Honeymooners. I mean, The Flintstones.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, sorry. I'm real sorry, Hanna-Barbera. I didn't mean it.
Oh, no. But you want to hear something crazy about the Flintstones?
I would.
I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that Fred and Wilma were the first couple to be shown sleeping in the same bed.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that, too.
Because the 50s had
animated or not.
Yes, because the 50s, and there might have been one earlier, but they were, like, married in real life.
Really?
Which was, like...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the 50s, there was this, like, weird rule that you couldn't have show unmarried people in the same bed together. So that's, like, why you would, like, if you ever went into, like, the master bedroom, like, they would have two twin-sized beds.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd be laying there reading the newspaper.
That's just how America works in the 50s.
Yeah, maybe. But the only reason I bring that up is I think it's rather interesting that, like, the first full-length animated television program is basically, like, an adult cartoon.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
They had like jokes for kids.
The Flintstones definitely was more, it felt like it was a little bit more aimed at adults than like, because it was like, it sure does suck to be married, am I right? Whoa. And I remember watching it as like an 8-year-old being like, what? Why is he going to like this Buffalo Lodge or something?
And then on the flip side, you had the futuristic show The Jetsons.
Yes.
And I remember once watching an episode of The Jetsons. Oh God, Joel, be prepared for this. This is great.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
There's an episode where Jane wants to learn how to drive, and she goes to this driving school that's designed to teach women how to drive. And the guy comes out, and he's wearing a neck brace. He's like, they told me I was crazy, and they were right.
Holy crap.
And I was like, oh boy, that aired on American television.
In the car. In the space car.
And then, of course, there are other styles of animation as well. So we have stop motion, which I think is super duper rad.
Ray Harryhausen.
So yeah, famously created by Ray Harryhausen.
Did he create it?
No, because King Kong had...
He was just like the best at it.
But yeah, Harryhausen,
I don't know.
Harryhausen, go watch Jason the Argonauts.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then, of course, we have full length. So we have, like, the Wallace and Gromit's, Shaun the Sheep, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
James and the Giant Peach, The Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists.
That's true. Although, was that actually CG, or was it stop motion?
I thought it was stop motion. I could be wrong.
Because nowadays, I mean, a lot of stuff is CG that's designed to look like stop motion. Because stop motion takes forever. It costs like $1 billion.
And so anytime they get one done, it's always really impressive. At least for me. I gotta think though, because it's like.
Oh, it's a 3D stop motion animated swashbuckler.
Oh, is it a combination?
So I think it's.
You know what? They probably did. They probably CG'd the background and then stop motion to the characters.
Yeah,
that would be my guess. And so yeah. That's a brief overview of animation. Obviously, during... So, I just want to throw something out there, Joel, before we move into the middle section real quick. I want to pitch something to you.
All right.
Which is... so, obviously, when we were kids growing up, we started having some cartoons that were aimed more at adults. You had Beavis and Butthead. You had Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
Which aired for children, but that was that weird time because they were like, oh, it's a cartoon, children. You have The Simpsons most famously. You have South Park.
Yeah.
And then Family Guy later. But we grew up, I would say, during like a heyday of animation.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why our generation is still super into animation? Our generation is still super into animation?
I'd say that's very possible. I think that, yeah, like there was a lot of stuff that really stuck with kids in the 90s.
Sure.
Although, honestly, like some of the stuff that we've gone back and watched has like been like, I feel like the stuff that's getting animated now is like so much better in terms of like narrative quality.
Sure.
That it's like, I feel like what is airing now is what maybe we thought we were watching as children.
I don't know. I'll agree with you on that to a point, although, man, go back and watch the Christmas episode of Hey Arnold.
Okay, that's a good point.
Wynn's,
yeah.
Why Mr. Wynn is so mad at Christmas time, and, like, I would put that up against really anything that's coming out today.
I guess I'm thinking more of, like, the 80s and, like, really early 90s.
Sure. Oh,
but
for
yeah,
sure.
a lot of that stuff that started coming out in, like, the later 90s definitely was, like, a bit more complex. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then, of course, we grew up during the Disney Renaissance with some of the best animated feature films to, like, I would say, ever come out.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what's that? Joel, is it, see that line on the laptop screen? It's the middle section.
No one knows.
Don't get us.
When we'll shut up.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful. Man, who never plays along with the middle section song?
Aw, man.
Yeah, I understand. It's not for everyone. We also met being theater friends.
Yeah, that's true.
But... Thanks, boys. This is Joe coming in to record the middle section because our recording got a little weird. So thank you so much for listening to Fandom Roulette. To follow us on Twitter, it is fandomr_podcast at twitter.com. To send us a Gmail, it's at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com for your questions. We're there to answer any questions you might have. And please listen to us on SoundCloud or find us on iTunes. Please rate, review, and subscribe. That is always useful to us. And now we're going to go back to the show. Middle section. Alright, so hey, we're now going into... What's that coming off from the distance? It's the Garbage Kid.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Joel...
Yes. I've not done this before.
I want to explain to you. Feel free to jump in and add in whatever commentary you see fit. So, there's a book that came out for Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And it's called Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Everything?
Damn it.
Oh.
Cody's going to be so mad because you got the joke in. Yeah, everything. And so, about near the end of the book, there's like all these random tables that you can write on, draw on. And then we give this character a super rad name.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you about my friend, Law Ironsinner.
Oh my god.
Right? What a good name.
I feel like this name, I'm almost a little scared for this character because that name is a lot to live up to.
Sure. So this character is a neutral good dwarf who was an entertainer and is a cleric. They knew who their parents were or are and were born in a home. They had no siblings.
Right.
They were raised by a guardian because their parents abandoned them. And they were poor and lived in a rundown shack.
Nice.
They had several friends, and their childhood was generally happy. Members of their family made ends meet by performing, so it was fitting for them to follow their example.
Okay.
And they saw the injustices and horror of the world and felt moved to take a stand against them. That's why they became a cleric. And as a cleric, they served in a temple in the Outer Planes.
So was it a temple in the Outer Planes or a temple like to the Outer Planes?
No,
is there a difference?
Who
Did they like go on an exchange trip
We'll ask.
to like the outer plane of like?
We'll talk to Humorous.
Positive energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Humorous. Right. That was a little inside joke for the Diamond Platinum members. They have a runestone said to be blessed by the gods. Pretty nice, right?
Okay.
And they believe that in their final analysis, the gods are nothing more than ultra-powerful mortal creatures.
Okay, so it's a Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, pretty much.
Got it.
Yep, it's the best. They are 21 to 30 years old, and they have 3 life events.
That's not a lot of life events.
Yeah, I know, right?
In the grand scheme of things.
Well, I mean, I guess it's major.
Then, I guess how many life events have I had, really?
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
when you think about it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Joel? Have you fallen in love and gotten married?
No.
No? Have you met someone important?
Well, I'm talking to him right now.
Aww.
Yeah.
And have you fought in a battle?
Okay, I have not.
Did you survive the battle but suffer from terrible nightmares in which you relived the experience?
Only if playing Ghosts and Goblins counts.
I'll count it.
Okay.
So that was the Law Iron Center.
Yeah.
The garbage kid of this year week.
Honestly, pretty good.
Yeah, right.
I'd say a lot of that's pretty consistent with each other, like surprisingly.
Yeah, it's weird. This was a surprisingly generous role.
Yeah.
Some weeks we have like a warlock who like is like lawful good.
Oh, always fun.
Right? Isn't that fun? But anyways, so now that we've gotten through probably that very bizarre history of animation.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some of the weird stuff we've watched?
Oh man, I have been waiting. I don't really know where to start.
I know, right? Okay, so let's give a little bit of setup.
Well,
here.
I think we kind of do know where to start, but yeah, why don't you do a
for sure
background?
So like we were watching like fairly standard stuff that's been coming out lately, combining it with some classic stuff. So like,
yeah,
we were let's see some of the
Gravity Falls,
Steven Universe, which Cody and I talked pretty extensively about last week.
Okay,
check it out; it's a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I believe Korra was airing when we were starting the
Korra,
Cartoon Council,
and then we binged all of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yes, I think that was like pre-council even.
It's possible
because that was when I still had fleas in my apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like very early on.
That's true.
Yeah, those were the days.
And then, man, we've just started going down weird rabbit holes.
Yeah, so I mean,
you're about to do it, aren't you?
I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean,
Go
yeah, I feel like there's a catalyst for all this.
Go for it.
Which is called Disney's Descendants, which is not a cartoon.
No, it's not.
But stick with me because it's getting there. So it's an amazing film.
It's an amazing film.
It's a work of art about the descendants of Disney villains and heroes who are now super trendy teens with magical iPads.
In high school. Obviously. Can we run through the names real quick, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
So we have Mal, who is the daughter of Maleficent.
All right, that's
Get
good.
It? Maleficent.
It's like, yeah.
We have Evie, who is the daughter of the Evil Queen.
Which is like her legal name, apparently.
Her legal name.
Yep.
We have...
With Carlos, who's the son of Cruella de Vil, because his name starts with a C.
And her name also starts with a C.
So that's, there. And then they didn't even bother to get past the first letter because they were like, our Carlos thing works so well. Why don't we just name Jafar's son Jay? Yeah. Because J is the first letter of Jafar.
Can you also tell me the best part about Jafar, or Jay rather?
I will, which is that all the other characters have like traits from their parents. So like Evie is really into fashion because like her brother was vain, and like Mal likes magic. Carlos is afraid of dogs, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but whatever, it's dog related. But Jafar's son is a thief because remember Jafar, the master thief of Aladdin?
Thief, yeah.
Always stealing stuff.
The funniest comment I saw about that was when I first saw it, and I was like, oh my God, we have to watch this movie.
Yes.
We showed it to our good friend who is obsessed with villainesses. We were like, Mallory, you have to watch this.
Yeah.
And my favorite comment was, Jay is a thief's... I guess Jafar became a master thief because he's following that most ancient of philosophies. If you can't beat him, join him.
Yep. He's like, wow, this thief thing was really working out for Aladdin.
Yeah.
Like, this ended up going well for him. So.
And so...
Right, so that movie's amazing.
It's amazing.
But then,
yes,
so it was over, and we were pining for more of this sweet, sweet Descendants content.
And then we got it in last year with Descendants 2, with such great characters as Uma.
Puma.
And Harry Hook, who's the worst character in all of existence.
Yeah, except for Fish Boy.
Oh yeah,
but
Lagoon
that's
Boy?
neither here. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, we'll talk.
It's neither here nor there.
Yeah, Young Justice was another good cartoon we watched.
Yeah, that's.
But anyway, so one day I go over
So-
to hang out with Joel,
Right.
and as we do, and it was like, oh man, time to spool up some Kouncil and get the.
Good
And
stuff.
Joel's like, I have a surprise for you, and I was like, oh boy. So he pulled up the www.youtube.com.
Oh yeah.
Good website.
Good website. Recommend it.
Is it?
Tell your friends. Well, okay, yeah.
That's
another podcast.
It's a wonderful pod. It's a wonderful.
It's a website.
It's a website.
YouTube.com.
Yeah,
It's a website.
YouTube.com.
I believe that's their
It's a website.
tagline.
And he was like, I got a surprise for you, and he sat me down, and he showed me Descendants Wicked Worlds.
Oh yeah. I actually forgot that I had found it first.
Yes, you did.
I thought we might have seen it together, but yeah. I was probably just looking up Descendants videos.
Yeah, probably.
The way that we did.
Alice Bunny.
So Descendants Wicked World. Yeah, that was pre-Alice Bunny, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So Descendants Wicked World is a web series featuring like the most amazing animation that like $10 can buy. On the Disney Channel. That's like they're like.
I think it's only on Disney YouTube.
Oh yeah, I guess that's not really on the Disney Channel, is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's like 2 to 3 minutes long. And it's basically the continuing adventures of the Descendants characters, which were already, not like a ton of material to work with.
Yep.
So it's like they took the writers from the Descendants movie and they got like the C-listers and they needed like something to do while they were writing Descendants 2, and they gave them Descendants Wicked World. So it gave us such like incredible bon mots as Digimage, which is the hot new buzzword that all of the tweens are saying. So you gotta maintain your Digimage so that people can your digital image, and just like so much stuff, and that just like catapulted us to like a whole new level at this point because.
Well, okay, and so here's the other thing we have to throw this one out there.
Yeah.
So you said that episodes are about 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
It would take us about 25 to 30 minutes
on
to
average.
watch one episode of Descendants Wicked World.
Yes.
Because we'd have to stop and we'd have to analyze and discuss what was happening on the screen.
Our critical analysis of Descendants Wicked World was robust.
Oh, it was.
It continues to be.
Man, maybe we should record a YouTube video. Let's do it.
Honestly, yeah, it's been bouncing around my noggin.
And so yeah. So then
So then YouTube was like, "Oh, you like these like 2 minute these 2 minute webisodes for tween girls, eh? Well, we have content for you."
Yep.
And my recommended videos have never been the same.
So
after that, I think it was Star Darlings.
It was Star Darlings, which was
our next...
also published by Disney.
Yeah, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
It's Disney Star Darlings. And so here's the thing about Disney Star Darlings is...
What if we made My Little Pony, but there were like 4 Twilight Sparkles and 3 Pinkie Pies?
Yep.
And
like a couple of Rainbow Dash shows.
Yeah.
And then in the most fascinating way we discovered this one, we discovered part 3 of the finale
That's
movie.
right. We really jumped into the deep end on that one.
And we needed to figure out what the hell was happening.
It was, we became invested at an alarming rate.
We discovered, what was that pet one called?
I
really watched one episode.
Oh, yeah, that was weird. I don't remember. It was like, I honestly don't remember.
Then we watched Shopkins.
I think Polly Pocket came before Shopkins.
Oh, yeah, Polly Pocket.
That was the nadir of our experience for a good long while. We hit Polly Pocket, and I think we were kind of like, all right, we need to step back, take a good long look at our lives
and our choices. And then we were like, wait a second, we're making good life choices.
Yeah, this is awesome.
So we dove back in deeper, and we discovered...
I think I found Shopkins somewhere, and like...
Shopkins?
I like messaged you in like the middle of the night.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a Facebook message at like
a mad woodsman, like running out of the forest, like screaming about like monsters.
You had gotten a recommended Facebook post suggesting that you watch Shopkins International.
Yeah, like the DVD that came out. And it was showing up everywhere. Like, I couldn't get away from it. And I was like, fine, you win, Facebook. I'm going to look at Shopkins.
Shall we talk about the most amazing part about Shopkins?
Yeah, and possibly the saddest part.
At least for a good long while. Maybe it's changed. We haven't looked at it lately. Mm-hmm. There's only one credited voice actress who is doing all of the voices.
All of the many, many Shopkins characters. And then, and from Australia, and we looked up, like, her personal, like, acting website. because she wasn't on like IMDb or anything, and it's like her only role
Yeah.
is like all of the voices of Shopkins. I was like, I'm so sorry.
I will say this though.
Yeah,
robust.
It's true. I would not have predicted that if we hadn't read it. You know,
Yeah,
I would have thought there were at least a couple different voice actors on there. So good on her.
And then, in possibly our lowest moment,
yeah,
we were
to date.
we were cat sitting for
yes,
a friend.
that's right.
And
it technically wasn't entirely our fault.
Her Netflix was up, and we saw Ever After High.
Yes.
And I was like, we should watch this.
Holy moly.
And
I don't think we really knew. We thought we were pretty hot shit at this point. We were like, yeah, we watched all the stuff. We
watched the best
we know
stuff
what's up.
day.
And then...
to this day, our friend will claim that she likes to put it on in the background while she is doing other work.
Right, which I can understand.
Yeah.
But if you leave that in your Netflix queue when we're cat sitting, that's like leaving a loaded gun in the house with a child. At some point, you have to take responsibility.
So those episodes were about 25 minutes a piece, something like that.
I think the first couple ones were like made for TV movies, right? So, no, that's right. It started out with like 3 or 4 20-minute episodes.
Yeah. And
then there were those like hour-long like movie specials, and I think that's what really killed us.
Yeah. So it took us about 25 minutes to watch a 2-minute bad show.
Yeah.
We were going on maybe hour and a half.
You can imagine
per episode. Can we tell one of the best parts about Ever After High?
Sure.
Hey guys, spoilers for
There's
Ever
so
After
many
High.
parts. I mean, I'm honestly not sure which one you're gonna go with, but
so in the 4th season,
which was Winter Wonderland, right?
Epic Winter, I think it was
Epic
called.
Winter Wonder, yeah.
And
I was thinking of Way Too Wonderland.
Yes.
Rookie mistake. I'm so sorry.
And then Dragon Games where nothing happened. And
Dragon Games was a massive disappointment.
So the character is like the Ice Queen's daughter.
Yes. Oh yeah, this part.
And she's 16.
Who has never been introduced in the show, but
never been introduced
for the record.
But also was best friends with like 4 of the cast
members. Right,
members.
somehow.
And her whole thing was she didn't know how to tie her shoes.
Right, which also wasn't even introduced
until episode 3
until,
or 4.
Like the episode where it happened.
And then episode 4, she learns how to tie her shoes and she can access her magical powers.
Or something.
And then the deepest, darkest, saddest dive.
From there, we pretty much conquered Ever After High. There wasn't like too much content, like, because it was relatively recent, like, you know, so we got through some of those series. It was a slog, but we did it. And then we watched the last episode, the credits rolled on the last episode of Ever After High, we were like, we did it. The nightmare is over. Yeah. Netflix, would you like to watch Monster High?
Yeah, we were like, yes.
That was when we perhaps bit off a little more than we could chew. At that point.
I think Monster High broke me a little bit.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely a pre and post. So all the Monster High movies, man, we're not gonna have any listeners for this episode.
No, we tried to sucker them in with zoetropes and Cuphead, and then we're like, all right, we all know why you guys are really here.
It's to listen to 2 adult men talk about watching teenagers. And I also contend that this is a level of service journalism that we never followed up on.
It's true.
To identify and watch shows for gendered. Yeah, there was a whole thing that we were gonna do, and we've never actually.
Interesting. We might still do it. We did it a little bit when we started watching Flex Armstrong or whatever.
Armstrong and this
Flex Force, the Furious Flex 5.
Yeah.
No,
you're thinking of Kung Fu Panda now.
I was.
Yeah, Furious 5 from Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Now you got egg on all over your face.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Oh, but going back to good shows real quick.
Whoa, okay, yeah.
Voltron, very
Oh,
good.
yes, excellent.
Highly recommended.
Season coming out roughly every 2 weeks.
Pretty much.
You know.
So yeah, you're never going to be want for content.
Yeah.
I was going to throw this one out there. I think we're going to end on a positive note.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because we're getting close to the about hour mark.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to throw this one out there, and I think you're inclined to agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned a show when we were going through good shows, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
Which I will say is probably in my top 5 favorite shows in general.
I would agree with that.
Not even animated shows, shows in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would argue, and then my friend threw out another one, but Avatar: The Last Airbender is an incredibly important show for contemporary animation because everyone on Avatar: The Last Airbender has gone on to produce things that I've enjoyed incredibly much. From Avatar: The Last Airbender, you have The Legend of Korra, which is pretty much a majority of the same creative team. I enjoy Legend of Korra quite a lot, but I think I like Avatar: The Last Airbender a little bit more because it was a tighter story. I think Korra was only intended to be one season.
Yeah.
And then it proved to be really popular, so they gave it multiple seasons, and then it proved to stop being popular, so they moved it to, like, the ghetto.
And Nickelodeon happened to it.
Yeah. They moved it to, like, online streaming only because the bad guy in season 3 murdered the queen.
Oh, yeah, that did happen. That was
Except
fun.
She didn't murder her so much as take her out.
She was taken down.
Yeah.
Permanently.
Yeah. And she was never on the show ever again.
Nope.
And then other parts of the creative team have moved on to Star Wars Rebels, Young Justice.
Oh, okay.
And Voltron? Legendary
Yeah.
Defender. And you can really tell because all of those shows really know how to balance humor, heart, and very good action. Which I think are three things.
Several.
A number of things that we both very much enjoy.
I would agree.
I think all those shows are definitely worth a watch. Voltron, I think I've talked about this before on the show, but it's kind of a special show to me. I don't know why. It has a lot of things I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's still airing, which I can't say for the 4 other shows.
That's also true. It's also interesting that Voltron is the only one that's like technically like a reboot of like a classic show.
Sure.
Because I mean you have like DuckTales and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is good, which we started watching.
Yes, that's entertaining.
The rebooted DuckTales. But yeah, like Voltron is interesting because that was like a reboot of like an older show than DuckTales even. I think
very like from what I've been told, very little plot.
Certainly not.
Certainly not multiple episode continuity. And a big.
Although I've never watched the original Go Lion Force Defender or whatever, but that's next week's episode, so we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
We also didn't talk about like Gravity Falls at all.
Oh, want to talk about Gravity Falls?
It's interesting because like in my mind, that's sort of like
when we really codified.
Kouncil. Because I feel like, and also just in general, I felt like that was when I felt like I was really at the beginning of this kind of like animation like renaissance.
I would agree
in terms
with
of
that.
kids animation
for
in
sure.
particular, because like there was so much stuff like that I really didn't expect from a show like that.
So do you want to pitch it real quick?
Yeah, I mean, if it like people who have watched this haven't seen Gravity Falls, both of you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a show that's about like a pair of twins who go to live with their great uncle in the Pacific Northwest, and it's basically got a lot of inspiration from like Twin Peaks, like the X-Files, and like mysterious like small town shows.
Yeah.
So it has really good one-off episodes with like a Monster of the Week kind of format, but also really amazing continuity. And a ton of like little Easter eggs and like viewer treats for people who are paying attention. So there's lots of like coded messages and like hidden secrets and like symbols that reappear everywhere. This is incredibly complex in terms of what they do with it.
I'll throw this one out there too. I was going to mention this last week on the Steven Universe episode, and I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
But Gravity Falls, I think, is an even more prime example of this thing. Those are 2 shows that were almost thrilled that the fans were able to guess the twists that were coming. Because especially in the case of Gravity Falls, like every episode ended with like a cryptograph. And you could like follow the messages and like follow the symbols and things like that. And there was a big reveal at the end of one of the episodes that fans had guessed, and Alex Hurst, the show creator, was incredibly excited because he was like, yeah, that's why I would put like all of these different like twists in there. And then a similar thing with Steven Universe was I think I remember people guessing that big spoiler for Steven Universe if you haven't watched it, that Garnet was a fusion.
Yes. There were a lot of really good hints that they dropped.
Sure. But I feel like lesser shows and other shows would sometimes get very cagey and upset when people would guess their big twist because they're like, I'm a master storyteller, whereas these shows are like, we're so excited. And then the thing the thing my friend pitched for, and I can't comment on this because I don't know enough about the development team in general.
Okay.
Is he's arguing that maybe Adventure Time is laying the groundwork for a bunch of people busting off and doing new things.
No, that's a good point.
So,
I mean, I don't really watch Adventure Time personally. I know it's like big and significant, but yeah, that was definitely the big one. So that was earlier than like almost anything else that we've mentioned in the modern period. And yeah, that had like a huge influence in terms of like just like the animation style.
Well, and then Rebecca Sugar was like a storyboarder, I'm pretty sure, for that, and that she went off. And then the showrunner himself is now getting more work. He's actually good friends with Alex Hirsch.
Oh, okay.
Or they're at least, they know of one another. I think they're pretty good friends.
Yeah.
I think he was a couple years older than Hirsch at whatever animation college they went to.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, Joel, I want to thank you so much for doing this podcast.
I want to thank you so much for inviting me to do this podcast.
This was a lot of fun.
It was.
So this is the end of our Western animation. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's probably going to go up late, and I apologize for that. I'm going to go in, and I'll tweet about it. And then we apologize for if you hear any kind of like ambient background noise. Yeah. We're not really recording in a professional studio right now because Cody has the microphone. But yeah, we want to thank you so much for listening to a wonderful episode of Fandom Roulette. It's probably mediocre, oh boy, oh no, oh
wow,
crap!
Don't oversell it.
It's probably going to be a little weird and meandering, and I might have to do a little bit of fancy editing there.
But we'll make it work.
But it was a lot of fun.
Which I mean you will.
And I hope you guys enjoy it because this was very much a labor of love.
Thank you for listening.
Next week we're going to be back. We're going to be talking about animes.
Which
I'm really excited about for a couple of reasons. I guess I'll just do a little pitch.
All right.
A little setup.
Yeah.
I really did not know anything about anime until even super late into our friendship.
That's true.
I think the only I had watched a couple of animes, like I had watched the Pokemon anime and then Hamtaro,
obviously,
of all things.
Yeah.
And then long pause, and I remember once we were hanging out super late at night, and you started playing one of the Gurren Lagann movies, and I was tired and I fell asleep. And then there was another long pause, and without giving too much away, I started my anime adventure in possibly the weirdest and worst spot to start an anime adventure.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
But yeah, so that's a little pitch for next week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Come back next week. We'll have another episode. And signing off, this is Joe.
This is Joel.
And as always, stay nerdy. Woo! Stay super nerdy.
I would have said that if I knew what it was going to be, but next time we'll say it together.